Oh, I'm in Texas mode today, girl.
Shoot.
No. Welcome everybody to another amazing week of Case Files with Kat
and Ashley.
Oh man, I'm so ready. I'm ready for this one.
Okay.
Like, you have no idea. I'm ready.
I don't.
I'm ready. How's your week been since I last saw you?
Well, it's been cold and rainy, and I love it. It's what I live for. So, it's like I'm just thriving out here.
I wish it snowed like it did in Dallas. I was like, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, I have family in New York, and she was talking about the snow. I was like, I know you hate it, but I would love it for just a few days.
Just a few days. Not like...
Not all year, but a few days.
Right, when we had the freeze and then everybody lost power. Not like that. Not like that.
Yeah.
Just a nice...
Yeah, I don't want that to happen again.
Yeah, I don't want that to happen. Just a nice little light dusting of, so that we could build a snowman, maybe.
Yeah.
Little tiny
little
ones.
Snow kitties.
Little snow kitties, exactly. What's going on in your backpack? Because Louis is over there.
Probably my dogs. Or he probably smells my dogs on my jacket.
Like, what the fuck is this?
Like, are there drugs in here? Obviously not, because he walked away. So.
I know. What else has been going on? Hold on, I have to shut that door.
Okay. I'm just going to keep drinking.
Yep, what are you drinking?
Something I've had before. It's another one of the beers that you got. Woo-hoo. But it's the Ejectocito Cuz from Martin House. It's so delicious.
Oh, that's funny. That's good. That's good art.
Oh my God. Martin House is phenomenal with their art. I'm not going to say their flavors are always phenomenal, but they're on point for what they say they're going to be. This one's really good, though. I love this one.
That's awesome. Good. I'm glad.
What are you drinking? I saw you
yes. Okay. So I have two because I'm just
I'm going to probably have a second one. Since
I'm on the last.
Okay.
Sip. But this one is from Paradigm Brewing. Brewing. It's called Resin Project. I've had it before. It's very, very good. Mosaic IPA. I remember us talking about like how like plain the art is. It's just like the 3 little hops. Do boop boop.
Yeah, but it's so cool.
This is a very easy to drink IPA. Like it's very light. It's like a session IPA. It feels like a session IPA.
I'll pretend like I know what
but
that
it's
means. I'll pretend like I know what
like
that
it's just
means.
light. It's just not. Okay. It's not super hoppy, or maybe it is hoppy. I don't know. I can't tell the difference. It's still 7.0%.
Yeah.
But it's it's very easy to drink. It's just very smooth.
Speaking of, have you been? I'm sure everyone knows where we live by now. Have you been to the new brewery in Galveston, the Naked Iguana?
No.
So I went over the weekend.
From? Oh, this is from Tomball, yo.
Oh,
wow, that's
Texas.
like that's north.
We're both Texas. Uh-huh. The Naked Iguana. They have a mixture of beers. They have IPAs, porters, ambers, wheats. But I went in and they have a strawberry wheat, and I love.
That's your jam.
Strawberry beers, and it's so hard to find good ones. They have a good one. They also have a really good standard blonde. They have an Island BOI. Is what I think it was called, or something like that.
BOI is born on island.
But I thought it was weird that the word island was in front of that.
Island born on.
Yeah, but anyways, it's a really good lager. They have really good beers. So if you happen to visit Galveston or be in the area, they've got some really good beers. They were low on cans, but I plan to get some when I go back. Anyways,
cool.
I just thought I would.
Cool.
They have a partnership with
like
Battleship
Island
Texas.
Boy. And then they play on Boy. Okay.
But they have a partnership with Battleship where parts of their certain beers go to Battleship Texas.
Oh, neat. Naked Iguana.
Naked Iguana. It's off the Strand.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, also, I want to apologize. I feel like I was listening to our last episode. Yes, we're hilarious, but I feel like I was breathing and sighing so much. Like I was just struggling to survive through that episode. I don't know if it's because I was just so annoyed that the boyfriend is still a free man or what, but I was listening to it and I was like, Jesus Christ, why am I sighing like this every 5 seconds? And so... I'm sorry. I feel like I'm doing it now that I said something, but like I was listening and I was just like, oh my God, what was I doing? But yeah, it was just intense.
You're about to sigh your fucking face off.
Okay. Well, let me read this real quick because it was from someone who was listening to our last episode and another episode.
Okay.
And I just think it would be a good to get the positive in before we dive into whatever's about to happen. So this is from Riley. So Riley, thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time to message us. But it says, oh my God, I'm listening to season 7, episode 15. I had an aunt and an uncle that lived on like 400 acres in super remote Oklahoma that also had one of those walkout attic doors. My asshole uncle, also my other uncle and my dad were in on it, had me convinced for years when we would go visit that there was absolutely some kind of monster that would get me in my sleep. I'm pretty sure that they didn't want me to go in there and have some antique or something follow me. I guess making me afraid of the door was one very effective way to keep me out. But that's kind of crazy. I didn't think anyone else.
Number one, is that abuse?
I don't know, but number one, I feel like I've never had a unique experience in my life. You know what I mean? Like, I think I have something, and then there's always someone else. So
that's okay.
I'm glad that someone else shared that experience. I'm glad you also had the trauma that I had.
You're not alone.
I know.
You are not alone.
I'm sorry that you went through that, Riley. I know it's very traumatizing, those attics.
Not alone.
My family was also involved in terrifying me. Anyways, and then she said, also, where I live, my backyard backs up to Charles Stobaugh's, I always say that wrong, property. So if you remember, it was the story where he was the first person or one of the first people convicted of murdering his wife without a body.
Yes.
Okay, so we did it in the first season and then redid it. Okay, so she said we can see his house from our back porch. I think Kathy's case was covered in season 5, episode 26, which was a redo because we don't have season 1 up. Anyways, she said he, Charles, has been pleasant with me and my kids. My 3-year-old son is obsessed with their tractors, and he always waves back at them and it makes his day. But we and several other neighbors and the builder that constructed our development did have a very rough encounter with their son. And that's what she said. But I just thought it was cool that someone listened to our episodes and shared. And
Riley, you're amazing.
Yes, thank you so much for taking the time to do that.
And if you feel like messaging us, even if it's just to be like, you girls are ridiculous, please feel free. We'd love it. We'd love it.
Yes.
Girls, ladies, women, gals, chicas.
Sorry, I was making sure I didn't miss any other person who had
badass bitches. What else you got? Adults.
I'm good. I'm done. I just wanted to thank Riley for reaching out because I
love that.
am interested. I didn't know that those walk-in attics were a thing. You know what I mean? I didn't know if that was just my house or what. I really never looked into it. I tried to black out most of my childhood. And so to know, I guess to know that someone else was out there, that's pretty cool. Not for her when she was a child, but it's cool now to know I wasn't alone.
You were not alone.
I'll wait till you finish. Okay. Also, I'm sorry, but what the hell is hand-to-hand wombat? I looked over and I started laughing during our silent countdown, and I was like trying not to. What is?
Dude, it's a super fun game where you have to have your eyes closed and you're trying to stack squares on top of these little pyramids because wombats poop comes out as a cube.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm so glad I asked.
And there's a whole book in there. It's a little comic book about how badass wombats are. And they have buns of steel where like, that's how they like, get out of my way. Boom, boom, boom. They can kill with their butt. It's like so
nice. Okay. Well, I'm very glad I asked.
And they make little towers of poop to get the next mate.
Well, okay. I just happened to look over.
It's really funny. And you have to
I don't remember that being in that spot when I was here last time. Maybe just glazed over it, but I just had to ask.
It's so fun. And it's so fun.
Sorry. Continue with your story. I'm done.
It's really fun. Okay.
I'm done asking questions.
Okay. So tonight I am doing, I feel like this is coming apart. I feel tonight I'm going to do just part 1 of a case that's got it all. Okay. Got it all. It's got money. It's got murder. It's got courtroom drama straight out of a soap opera. I am telling you, it's like, this is before O.J. Simpson. So it's like, this was big. This story, which was recommended to me by the Wizard.
Oh.
The one who says he doesn't like true crime.
And always sends us updates on true crime stuff.
Always. So this one, it was like, he just gave me like 4 sentences and I was like, oh, I'm in, I'm hooked. And then I just immediately started looking.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to do it, so I just had to do it. So now I'm, he threw everything else off track, but I'm surprised I didn't already know this story. And I call myself a Texan. Shame on me. Okay. So tonight I'm going to be talking about Cullen Davis. Thomas Cullen Davis, and the double murder that rocked Fort Worth, Texas to its core. So if you're listening, grab a beer, grab your wine, grab your coffee, grab whatever floats your boat, I guess, because this one's wild. It's wild. We're going down to the honky tonk. So buckle up.
Oh my God.
Buckle up, because this story has more twists than a Texas back road.
Okay.
I don't know. Let's make that up. Okay. So all research notes are going to be in the show notes. So if you want to go down this rabbit hole with me, have fun. Okay. Okay. So let me start from the beginning. Like, I actually kind of got to go a ways back. It's not when
a ways back.
So Kenneth William Davis, the father of Thomas Cullen Davis, was born November 25th, 1895 in Morrilville, Pennsylvania. Okay. For a man destined to become a titan of the oil industry, his birthplace was fitting since it's the birthplace of the oil industry. It was in Pennsylvania. Oh. He was just 2 miles away from where he was born, actually. Journalist and author Mike Cochran notes the petroleum industry traces its origins to Titusville, a 2-mile drive up the road from him. So that's interesting. Ken Davis came to Fort Worth during the Depression in 1929, and despite his future success, Ken Davis's formal education ended in the 6th grade. His path to Texas came through his service as a World War I pilot. When Ken Davis moved to Fort Worth, he was already married and had a son, Ken Jr. He met and married Alice Bound in 1921. And after the war, he worked in Pennsylvania's steel mills before becoming a real estate agent. His entry into the oil business began humbly as a laborer in a field supply store. And when the Davises returned to Fort Worth in 1929, Ken Sr.'s career took a dramatic turn. So he was just very, very smart. And he right place, right time, really, honestly. 8 years after Ken Jr. was born, Thomas Cullen Davis was born. And then 2 years later, Bill Davis was born. So there were 3 boys to Alice and Ken Sr. So when Ken Sr. joined an oil field supply firm that was struggling in Fort Worth, he was able to spend just $5,000 to buy the controlling interest in the company.
Oh, wow.
That's like $77,000 in 2020 money.
Yeah.
All right. He was certainly a shrewd businessman, though, having an affair with the widow who owned that controlling share might have helped. Mm-hmm. That was pretty smart.
Yeah.
It was pretty smart. And actually, FYI, 12 years after that failed affair, she killed herself by throwing herself out of her apartment window. My God. It is said to be because of the failed relationship with Ken Sr. He became vice president of the Mid-Continent Supply Company. Is this even on Mid-Continent Supply Company, which quickly gained controlling interest and transformed the company into a vast industrial empire. And by 1978, the company's revenues were exceeding $1 billion a year.
Oh my gosh.
That's like
$1 billion for that time period. So
that's like $4 billion now.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's a lot. Now, these 3 sons might have grown up in a far better situation than most of us will ever know, but Ken Sr. did a pretty great job of not coddling them. He wanted to make sure they understood working for a living, right? They could have gone to Ivy League universities, which they probably wanted to do, but Ken Sr. insisted that they all attend Texas A&M. Much more modest, which was a big deal. He wanted them to live modestly, not be showy. And to work like he did. He was, after all, a self-made man. So that's pretty common. Like a self-made person wants their kids to also know what it...
Yeah, but I feel like Texas A&M is not low class.
In 19...
Oh, well, I guess. I was going to say, because it's a pretty nice...
Now.
Yeah.
It's a public university.
Yeah.
Right? It's,
okay.
Yeah. It's
so he just didn't want him to go to like Harvard or Yale. Okay. Got it.
which has a much better reputation than A&M.
Yeah.
A&M is great, but Harvard, Yale, they're not, it's still Ivy League, right?
Yeah.
So not to dismiss A&M. I'm not,
No, I get what you're saying.
Right now, amazing school. But back then, it might not have been such a whatever. Now, many of our listeners will know Texas A&M and be like, what? That's a great fucking school. Like, I went there.
So
I'm
I
sure.
was like,
But this was way back when. So this is, it may not have been as prestigious, but it was still a good school. It was still a very good school.
Yeah.
And he said, this is where you guys are going to go. So they all went there. It wasn't, I'm sure that they would have wanted to go to a university outside of Texas, but Dad wasn't having it. So that, that's it. So the kiddos grew up. As they grew up, they also had to work on the farm. They lived on this farm. They had to bale hay, and it's called chopping cotton, which is like basically weeding cotton.
Yeah.
As it's growing, you're not picking the cotton. You're just making sure the weeds are all gone, and other manual tasks. But they were treated like employees, which was fair, but they were treated like employees, not like sons.
Yeah.
So they weren't given like the extra props for whatever. I'm sure they both, in hindsight, I'm sure like in the present they hated it, and in hindsight they probably appreciated it, taught them some work ethic.
Sure.
Because they grew up to have a pretty good work ethic, all in all. I just imagine, to me, like a bunch of bratty rich kids who were just getting everything handed to them. And so, which I know is not fair. I know that that's not how all rich people raise their children. But at the same time, I'm like, do they also make them work manual labor? Anyway, they did have to work hard, and it wasn't like everything just came to them. They had to actually earn it. They couldn't run the company if they didn't know how to run the company. Yeah. Right. Anyway. Yeah. And it wasn't all work and no play. He built, instead of sending them off to camp every summer, he built a camp on the property. So they learned how to ski. They learned how to sail. They learned, they got to do all of those outdoor activities right there on the property. So he didn't have to send them away to do that. He wanted them to be athletic, and he wanted them to be competitive, and they absolutely were. So known as Stinky Davis. I'm not sure why that stuck, but it did. It's so Ken Sr. was Stinky Davis. I don't know that I'd keep it, but okay. So Stinky Davis was a towering figure in the oil industry, both respected and reviled. Someone said he was the meanest man I ever knew. That was a former employee. That son of a bitch was a bully, another worker recalled. He was gruff, abrasive. He used to call me boy, and I was a Korean War veteran.
Oh my God.
Despite his abrasive demeanor, Stinky's vision and drive left an indelible mark on the oil industry. And he had a penchant for the eccentric, a trait shared by many self-made millionaires, including his sons. He enforced quirky rules in the company, requiring employees to wear hats while banning green ties and taps on shoes. Very strange. I can see Ashley's eyes go,
but he
what
never
is that?
said why they couldn't wear green ties?
That's it.
Okay.
A sign salvaged from the restroom of the old Ken Davis headquarters, Ken Davis Industries, Ken Davis headquarters, humorously declared, "No reading of any kind permitted in this laboratory." But it's a sign, so you're reading it. His moments of civic pride inspired equally unconventional generosity, like he funded major projects like the Fort Worth Planetarium and a girls' camp. So he did give back. That was there. He funded it. He funded the planetarium. If you've ever been to Dallas and you've been to the planetarium, Fort Worth, and you've been to the planetarium, thank you, Ken Davis Sr. So despite these interests, Davis's true passion was his business. He once said, "You take Fort Worth and I'll take the rest of the world." True to his word, Davis set his sights globally, building a sprawling network of international operations as he amassed enormous wealth. He reinvested it swiftly back into his company, continually expanding it and chasing better opportunities. Like he was business all the time. Now with 3 kids, the parents had their favorites.
I thought parents didn't have favorites.
Parents don't have favorites. These parents had favorites. So Ken Sr. favored Ken Jr.
And they told them who the favorites were?
It was clear.
Okay.
So Ken Sr. favored Ken Jr. Alice favored the youngest, Bill. And so Cullen, being in the middle, saw all of that. And he wasn't like, yeah, no, they didn't have favorites. No, like, those are the favorites. Like, he knew he was kind of in the middle.
Oh, that would be horrible.
He was probably not that cool. So this is what he said about his mom. She was like any other woman. She bitched a lot. So that's my mom. She's like every woman. She just bitches a lot. Just...
I mean, fair.
Yeah, I mean, fair.
We have to pair up with men, so I mean.
Oh! There you go, sister. So Alice bound Davis. Alice bound Davis, his mother, passed away in February of 1967. In Fort Worth from heart disease.
Okay.
And Cullen went to the hospital and see her, and she refused to see him.
Oh my God.
So kind of,
this is a great family.
So kind of tells you, it's like, I don't know what's going on there. But she was like, no, I'm going to wait for your brother, Bill. So Bill shows up and she's like, thank God you're here. Here's all my jewelry, and hands him everything. She wouldn't even see Ken Sr. But it wasn't clear if Ken Sr., because Ken Sr. had just had 2 heart attacks and he was wheelchair bound at this point. So it wasn't clear if like, don't come and see me, you're already sick.
Yeah.
Or if it was like, no, he's not allowed. She just wanted to see Bill and no one else. So sounds a little unhealthy, but okay. After she died, Ken Sr. kind of holed himself up in her room, and he lasted another 18 months before he passed away on August 29th, 1968, also in Fort Worth. And by the time of his death, his company, Ken Davis Industries International, Inc., had grown into a $800 million conglomerate. So it's huge. Okay. So now we can talk about Cullen. I kind of had to introduce you to the family.
I'm just still stuck on how much money they had.
Just,
Good Lord, I can't even imagine.
Just hemorrhaging money in a good way. Just for getting so much money. Okay, so Thomas Cullen Davis, the son of Kenneth Davis and Alice May Bound, was born on September 22nd, 1933 in Fort Worth, Texas. So as an heir to this vast empire that I've now laid out for you, that his father built, he was groomed for success, but didn't inherit the fortune without effort.
Real quick, this is the middle one that was not the favorite of any of them, right?
This is Cullen. This is our main character.
Yeah. But I just want to make sure I was on the same page that he was the one that was not the favorite of either parent.
I'm sorry. He wants to lick my beer.
Well, I mean, where is my support cat?
Look at this. Just cleaning it. Can you move? I gotta.
And we're not doing a podcast or anything.
Not doing a podcast. He's like stepping on.
He's like going to push the sound equipment off.
He's stepping on the keyboard. Okay. Okay. So he attended, the nice schools. He was given all the opportunities, but he also worked really, really hard. And he did a degree in petroleum engineering. So he knew his stuff, right? So with his education, the family legacy, Cullen was poised to take the reins of the family business and grow this wealth even further. But it wasn't just him alone. He did have his other 2 brothers. It wasn't like he was handed all of it. Right. So Davis proudly acknowledged his connection to 3 iconic American inventors. This is true. Eli Whitney. You've heard that name. Samuel Morse and Charles Goodyear.
Oh, he was related to all 3 of those?
He said, maybe that's where I get my inventive imagination. I mean, okay. So, yes, so
That's
he's related.
wild.
I know it's wild, right? So Cullen's personal life, this is where we're going to start his personal life. So it's beginning with his first marriage to Sandra Masters on August 29th, 1962 in Tarrant County. She was a native of Fort Worth and was well-liked. She was a darling, you know. She was well-liked by his parents. She was well-liked by the high society that they lived in and that they belonged to. And she was like, I guess she was like the person he was supposed to marry. Like all the boxes were checked.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
here is your perfect mate. And if you were a perfect person, you would be like, yes, that is my perfect person. But he, you know, he had a thing. She was who you were supposed to want to marry.
Yeah.
Right. But he had a type.
Okay.
He had a type.
Of course.
He had a petite, platinum blonde, and busty.
Oh, okay.
Yes. She was not that. She never like went blonde or anything. She might have gone lighter, but she never went blonde. And she didn't change to become that. So that's good.
Yeah.
The couple had two sons, Thomas Cullen Jr., and Brian Keith, before ultimately Sandra filed for divorce in 1968, it might have been 67, marking the beginning of a very tumultuous journey for everybody. For everybody. She had said at this point, I'm going to say at this point, she had said about Cullen that he was tyrannical, harsh, unkind, and cruel. Those were her descriptions.
Oh my God.
Okay. That's what she said then. She did eventually change her story, kind of, about her feelings about him. Anyway, that wasn't the only thing happening in 1967 and 68. Now enters Priscilla Lee Childers Baker Wilborn.
That's all one person?
Born Priscilla Lee Childers from Dublin, Texas. She was born July 30th, 1941, and she was the daughter of Oklahoma native Richard Clifford Childers, who worked in the oil industry, and his wife, the former Audie Lee Smith, a Texan. It said she grew up, like the way that the press later described her was that she grew up really destitute from the wrong side of the tracks. You know, they kind of really made her seem so poor. But she had said that her mother was educated and always had a job. She always had books to read. She took piano lessons. She
just wasn't a millionaire, right? Like a multi-millionaire.
Right. So I was like, to me, that doesn't scream destitute.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She gave a lot of interviews that sometimes made it easy for you to not like her, or easy for you to see, oh, she was just after the money. Like, she didn't help herself in some of these interviews. Some other interviews did give her a better light, but she was sometimes her own worst enemy. Anyway, certainly not destitute.
Yeah.
You know, she wasn't that. Priscilla's first marriage was to a man named Jasper Baker, who was a 21-year-old Marine, and she was 16. Yeah. So she had said that she was sexually assaulted when she was 15, and the man that did it went away to serve in the army. And then she marries a man who comes back from the army. So it's not 100% certain that Jasper Baker, like, no one's ever really cleaned that up. Like, is that the same guy? I don't think so. But anyway,
Oh, yeah.
she marries Jasper Baker. She does have that child, Angela D. Well, she goes by D anyway. So Angela, or D, is their child. And actually, Jasper Baker was from Galena Park, just right here.
And this is
near
all
Houston.
before meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is when she's 16. She was born in 41, so it was at 57.
Okay.
And And so the couple's union ended in divorce because he was cheating on her. And then in 1959, they were only married for like a year. And then in 1959, she marries Jack Wilborn from Houston. He was 40. She was 18. He was a fairly successful, gross. I'm sorry. Can we just, right?
Yeah. I think so, yes.
Look, I'm sighing now.
I think all marriage is gross, but that's just
okay. All right.
Just kidding.
What are you doing after this? All right. So he was 40, she was 18, and he was a pretty successful used car dealer who had served in the Navy during World War. I guess he would have had to been World War One.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or no, World War II, I guess. It could have been World War II, 1958.
Oh, yeah.
It could have been World War II. He was born March 16th, 1921 in Oklahoma. And the two of them had children, Jack Jr. or Jackie, as they called them, and Andrea. This time because he had discovered an illicit affair between Priscilla and Thomas Cullen Davis. He decided that he was going to file for divorce as well. So at this point, I'll just keep going. I'm not going to skip ahead. I'm going to skip going. So Priscilla would later say that he was good to her, but she was bored. Right?
She was bored of
She was bored. He was good to her, but she was bored.
Oh, okay.
Right. He was much older than her.
Yeah.
You know, I remember my mom being like that. My mom was 20, my dad was 40, and he was just like, I'm cool staying at home like I am now, right? Like, I'm cool staying at home. And she was like, I want to go out. I want to go dance. I want to go do whatever.
I feel like how you are in your teens and 20s is vastly, because now I love taking naps. I get it. I want to take naps all the time. I want to stay in. I want to nap.
I don't want to be awake ever.
I don't want people on my lawn. Like, I get it now.
Get off my lawn.
I get all this. I don't want the lights on. I get it now. But back then, I would have been restless. I definitely would have been bored with someone who wanted to stay home.
So, ladies, if you're listening to us, trust us. 20 and 40 is a big difference. Truly, it is. And I mean, my mom never, like, there was an older guy that really liked me. She was like, you should date him. And I'm like, I have no interest in dating someone who's that much older than me. No, thank you. Because what do we really have in common? Like, I have no life experience and he has all of this life experience. And I want to go out and have fun with my friends. And he wants to stay home and drink fancy wine that I know nothing about. I don't care how rich he is. You know, like, that's crazy. We have nothing in common. This won't last. You know, it was fun for a second, but it wasn't going to last. Anyway, Priscilla would later say that she met Cullen at the country club that they all belonged to. And they even played doubles tennis with he and his wife, Sandra.
Cute.
And they were kind of flirty, but not too much. Anyway, so she called him later and was like, hey, can you get tickets to this football game? He couldn't, but he was like, womp, womp, you know, like...
Yeah.
She wants me. And
I love how asking for tickets to a football game translates to she wants me.
I mean, she could have called anybody, right? She could have called anybody. She belongs to that.
Yeah, I guess.
Mm-hmm. He got the message. And you know, she was this 5'2", naturally busty.
Oh my God.
Not naturally blonde, but blonde little firecracker. And she was perfection. She would go even more platinum for him later and even got an enhancement on her already perfect frame. She was just cute as a button. Just cute as a button. She was something else, though. She was something else. So someone described her as a human fireworks show. Priscilla Davis was as flamboyant as her husband was reserved. She would say that Cullen was a dream come true. She really thought she had found it. She loved Cullen. There was just the sex was good. They had so much fun. He doted on her.
He was rich.
That was a plus, obviously, because they did all these fun things. But I mean, she just thought he was the world.
Yeah.
And the money was obviously a bonus. She flaunted it. The high society folks always had something to say, but she honestly had zero fucks to give. She was just her.
Yeah.
Her favorite little piece of jewelry was a necklace that spelled out "rich bitch" that he
I love it.
that
I'm gonna
he
get
had
that
given
even
her
though I'm not rich. I'm gonna
in
get one.
diamonds. It was
Nice.
spelled out in diamonds.
Nice.
I mean, she's so extra. And I love that for her. I do. I loved it for her because she wasn't like a bitch. You know, she took in stray animals. Her friend got the flu and she was the first person to show up with a pot of soup. And, you know, she cared for the sick. She loved people. She was always really nice to people. You know, like that's it. She thought the best of people and that's who she was, you know? So rich bitch just makes me laugh because it shows her sense of humor to me. Anyway, she would wear it to a honky tonk. She would wear it to a gala. She just wore that. I just love it. So now we're in New Year's Eve. It's 1967 going into 1968. All right. This couple who now, So Jack Wilborn has already filed for divorce.
Okay.
Sandra had months earlier filed for divorce as well. Jack knowing that Priscilla was having an affair. Sandra probably aware that Cullen was having an affair, but desperately wanting to hold on. I mean, the money was nice.
Yeah.
Right. So Cullen and Priscilla go away to Acapulco. And they come back and they fly into Fort Worth and they get off the plane and they go to their hotel and they're all giddy and in love and they're glowing from being on this vacation. And later that night, Cullen's in his boxers. Priscilla's completely naked. The door gets broken into their hotel room.
Oh my God.
And Priscilla screams, ah, and she runs into the bathroom and closes the door. And she just hears Cullen going, "You can't do this." And so Priscilla is in the bathroom going, "I'm going to call the cops." And then she hears her husband's voice saying, "Open the door. I'll give you the phone."
Like her actual husband,
Her
not
actual
Cullen's.
husband was there. Not just
Nice.
him, Sandra too. Cullen and Priscilla had no idea that they were being followed by investigators that Jack Wilborn had hired. And so he's like, Sandra,
I thought he knew she was having an affair.
he wanted to prove it because he was after full custody of all the kids because he raised them.
Yeah.
And he was
there's-
like, Sandra, you're coming with me because you need to know exactly what's going on. You need to not have some fucked up thing that you think he's going to come back to you. Like, because that's not going to happen. Get over it. Like, let's come into reality now. You need to get your kids custody. Let's do this.
Good for him, though.
Like,
you know what I mean?
right?
Like,
Yeah.
helping her. Like,
Did it? Okay.
okay, I'm assuming by that
So-
face, she didn't listen.
Well, she did it. She was there. And all she said was, Cullen Davis, you are 1/6 son of a bitch, and then walked out.
I mean, to be fair, that's a lot of money, right? Like, I'm sure and she probably didn't want to be embarrassed by people finding out he was having an affair on. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why she wouldn't want as much as the ex-husband was wanting, you know, like,
She would say later that she was the only person Cullen ever really loved because she was the only one that really understood him.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
no, I don't know if it had anything to do with embarrassment. I think she could have saved herself.
Well, I was just trying to give her the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Okay. So now Priscilla was like the opposite of Sandra.
Okay.
In that Ken Sr. did not approve of her. Nor was she a sweetheart of Fort Worth. She was a showy blonde who looked basically like you look up gold digger and there is Priscilla's picture, right? But Cullen and Priscilla decided to get married 3 weeks after his divorce from Sandra.
Okay.
And it was the day that his father died. Now, they had already planned for the wedding to happen on that day. And so they were just like, well, it's already planned. Let's just do it because it's going to get crazy from here on out, right? So they just went ahead and went through with it. That's about as much. She was like, he didn't like me anyway.
Flag.
Well, she was like, he doesn't like me anyway, so he wasn't even going to come. And
he died on your wedding day. I feel like that should be a sign.
I don't know. Anyway, they decided to go through it. No love lost. Anyway, there's just that zero fucks. Like I said, zero fucks. Okay. All right. So Ken Sr. died. He left his 3 sons equal shares of his holdings. And so they all got a piece of, they all got a piece of the pie and they were able to run their portions of the business as they saw fit.
Okay.
All right. There was no you have to get so-and-so's approval. It was just like, you just do your shit.
Like that would end up very poorly. To have 3 brothers who didn't really, they weren't like the best of friends. You know what I mean? And
they still had to vote on things. And they had to have unanimous voting until they decided not to have unanimous voting.
This is what I'm saying. Yeah. This sounds like it ends very badly.
Well, yes. And I won't go into too much of, yes. Okay. 2 of them kind of agreed more than the other. And, that sort of, and none of them really liked how Cullen was just spending money all the time. They were like, damn, dude, chill, because he was very showy. Ken Sr. didn't like showy. And as soon as he died, Cullen was like, bam, I'm showy, and he built this mansion. And up until then, they were millionaires living in a modest home, not far from their dad. And, it wasn't, obviously a modest home for them is probably a pretty nice fucking house. Not a sprawling estate, but probably a really nice house. Yeah. Anyway, so Cullen and Priscilla immediately moved out of their modest home and into his father's house to protect it from looters, they said. Right. But that wasn't his dream home. He had wanted a mansion and he had been dreaming about it. And so he started construction. Ken Sr. had objected to this build. But it was a ginormous house on a hill. The Davis estate was worth $3.8 million then. That's how much they spent building it. Huge. It stretched over 181 acres.
Oh my God.
From the western boundary of Colonial Country Club to Holland Street, if you're in Fort Worth. The mansion's architect, Albert Komatsu, who designed the home in the late 1960s, called it a, quote, rambling type of contemporary design with a Southwest regional flavor. It prevents varied vistas over the landscaping and the property. It is very open plan with ceilings of varying heights. So lots of sloped, the very tall, very sloped roofs, ceilings. So when you look at it from the outside, there's lots of this. Yeah. Everything was white, just white paint, just lots of white. They had there was a the fireplace in the center of the living room, really big, so you could sit around it, and nice, cozy. It was very, 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 very open. It was very open. Indoor pool. There was a big billiards room. It had everything they wanted, basically. Priscilla's bathroom was the only room he didn't touch, in designing. So it was bigger than most bedrooms, right? Huge tub, the bidet, the chandelier, crystal chandelier. It was all pink. Huge mirrors. She would sit on the floor to do her eyebrows. Huge mirrors. Yeah. Pink. And they had just so much fun. This was their honeymoon period. They, in the midst of all of the building, they traveled the world together. They went to parties. He bought her so much jewelry. He felt like he was 8 anniversaries ahead, beautiful, beautiful jewelry. He got a little bracelet with a world on it that had a diamond for all the little countries they'd been to. Right. Yeah. Jesus. And it wasn't until about 2 years that the marriage she started to see the cracks. They started to be pretty apparent. he started to get a lot angrier with her. He stopped being as sexual with her. And she didn't feel at the time, she said she didn't feel like he was cheating on her, but there was something going on. There was a definite shift. He did start to become violent. He even beat her with her crutches after she broke her ankle in a ski trip to Aspen. But at this point, it was not just directed towards her. Yeah. Dee, who was her oldest child from that first marriage, did not go to live with Jack Wilborn in the divorce. She ended up being the only kid that stayed with Priscilla. Now, Jack wanted Dee to come live with her. He did. Yeah. He asked for that. She chose not to, and she called him daddy. Like that was her daddy, because that was the dad she knew growing up. Yeah. But she still ended up living with her mom. And so she stayed at the mansion and had all that she could ever want, but she and Cullen didn't really get along. He actually didn't really like her. There was just a really bad time for her to live there. I mean, if you're just meeting a teenager, it's gotta suck. You know what I mean? Like, teenagers are rough.
Yeah.
And you're the guy that broke up my dad and my mom.
Yeah.
I don't like you, so there's probably some attitude going on there. One night in 1971, Cullen marched Dee to the kitchen and asked, "What did we forget?" And she responded, "I forgot to lock the back door." "And why do we lock the back doors at night?" So nobody will steal your precious junk. So
I'm sorry.
In his words, and you can just see a teenager saying this, what I mean? And so in his words, she smarted off to him. He lost it, shoved her into a door, broke her nose. Priscilla comes running into the kitchen holding her new kitten after hearing all the noise.
No. I don't want to hear this.
And Cullen, okay, Ashley, close your ears.
Okay.
And those of you who are upset by violence against animals, fast forward about 30 seconds. Cullen grabbed the kitten and slammed it to the floor. And it started to quiver, Dee said, and to make awful sounds because it didn't die. So he picked it up again and slammed it to the ground until it was dead. You okay?
Yeah.
Yeah? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
A little bit, Kevin. Their screams were so loud. Priscilla's and Dee's screams were so loud, Ashley, that it set off the alarm and it caused the cops to come to their house.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine?
Like a fire alarm? What kind of
they
alarm?
Screamed so loud that it set off something.
Oh, wow.
I can't even imagine. It was some kind of primal ass scream.
Yeah.
That was, anyway. It started, I'm so sorry. The police showed up. Bill Davis's, the youngest brother, his wife, Mitzi, because of course that's her name.
Yeah.
Mitzi.
I love it.
Went to the house and took Dee and Priscilla to the hospital because they needed to make sure Dee's face was okay. They needed to check on her nose. So this was like 3 years into the marriage, y'all. This is fucking terrible.
How old was Dee?
Oh my gosh. 57.
She's just a teenager.
So this is 1971. She was born in 57 or so.
Okay.
I don't do math.
Me either.
Someone figure it out.
She's a teenager.
Or a preteen, probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably like teenager or early teenagers. Yep. I don't do math. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So in 1973, so this is just 2 years later, Dee's boyfriend's parents called child welfare. because of bruises they saw on Dee because she had tried to alter her report card. And Cullen could tell that she was trying to forge it. And so he beat the fucking shit out of her. So her boyfriend's parents saw that and called authorities on him. And they just suggested family therapy. Thanks. So Dee would later say that, well, it was the 70s and they didn't understand about abuse the way we do today.
No, it's because rich people can do what they want.
And it's also, they didn't fucking know then.
CPS still doesn't
They
do
still
shit
don't do
in most
shit.
cases now.
Oh, why haven't we gotten better? And so as someone, I'm going to take a little liberty here. As someone who works for a domestic violence agency, I can tell you this. I'm going to give you some stats, right? In the United States, over 15 million children live in households where partner violence has occurred in the past year. Globally, 17.3% of children are victims of physical domestic violence and 16.5% witness it. Children exposed to domestic violence are at higher risk for psychological and emotional problems such as depression and PTSD, have behavioral problems, interpersonal skill deficits, using abusive behavioral patterns in their own relationships, smoking, misusing alcohol and drugs, and engaging in high-risk sexual behavior. So perpetrators, 30 to 60% of domestic violence perpetrators also abuse children in the household. This affects all of us. I'm going to get off my soapbox. And we can all infer that children who experience this may also fall into the same pattern and become victims, if not perpetrators themselves.
Yeah.
Right? It's a vicious cycle. So please donate to your local domestic violence agency. Please, we need your money. We're getting cut. Here in Texas, Bay Area Turning Point got 41% cut from their largest funder, which is huge and is going to impact how we help victims of domestic violence. So we could really use your help. Anyway, by 1974, the incidents of abuse were mounting. He drank a lot. And when he drank, he beat her. He had said later, I can count on one hand how many times I've gotten physical with Priscilla. Because that's better.
Yeah, I was gonna say that should be zero.
It should be. I can count on one hand how many times I've gotten physical with her. You shouldn't be able to count on hands or feet. There should be 0 times, like 0 times. He did, however, say he regretted what happened with the cat, but that's it. He said Dee was a smartass. Priscilla deserved her beatings, so the cat did not. And for that, he had regret. What a fucker.
Wow.
Priscilla also said Cullen had some sexual deviant history kind of stuff, and not shaming that, but, stuff that wasn't on like her platter of excitement. She was just like, eesh. Like whenever they travel the world, he'd always want to see those like illegal sex shows. Think like the donkey shows in TJ, those crazy he would want to go do that. Live sex shows where like one time they were invited to be a part of it, and he was like, oh, don't want to open up that Pandora's box. Like, had she been down for it, would they have done it?
He didn't do it by himself. You know what I mean?
Well, he didn't do it, without her around. He even threw a big deep throat party. So if you're too young to know what Deep Throat was, it was like the biggest porn movie ever at the time. It was like highbrow porn. There was actually like a story, character development, whatever. And so he got a bunch of food, bunch of booze, and invited people over. People came.
Was it mostly men, I'm assuming?
I'm assuming. But at that time, like there were a lot of celebrities who had seen Deep Throat. It was seen as way highbrow. Like it was
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with seeing it, right? Like
but
to each their own, but to throw a fucking party, get food and snacks and invite people over, it just seems so fucking bizarre.
I had a friend who ironically had screech porn viewing party.
Okay.
That's pretty funny. I mean, we watched Saved by the Bell and then watched the screech porn. That was funny.
Yeah.
It was ironic.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing.
I don't feel like he was doing this to be ironic.
No. So to put this all together, you have a pretty rocky marriage. Am I right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of red flags. I think we should change our podcast to red flags with that, actually. So, okay, on July 30th, Priscilla's 33rd birthday, Cullen packed his bags and left. Happy birthday!
Probably was a happy birthday to her, though.
That's what I'm saying. She was mad, but she took out $1,500 out of the bank account, hired herself a divorce lawyer. She was not dumb. She was like, let's get this going then.
Yeah.
Within months, they were each dating other people.
Oh, sorry.
They were each dating other people, so things were just gonna kind of have to move at the pace they were gonna move at. With a divorce this size, they had a lot of property. He had a lot of property, that sort of thing. There was going to be a lot to deal with, and she was asking for money. He wasn't really willing to pay any money, and so she was saying, "You tricked me in signing this prenup," and so she was fighting a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
She was asking, of course, for half of his $100 million fortune. In today's money, that was like $400 million, $500 million.
Yeah.
By 1975, she at this point had a steady, now live-in boyfriend whose name was Stan Farr. And he used to play basketball for TCU, Texas Christian University.
Okay.
He was 6'10".
Oh, wow.
6'10". She was 5'2".
Crazy.
I sent you a picture of the two of them standing next to each other.
Yeah.
It is comical.
Yeah.
Comical how much taller than he is. He was the manager of a nightclub called the Rhinestone Cowboy. Rad. But he was just a teddy bear. He was really, really good to her. He was just a sweet guy. By 1976, he and Priscilla had plans to marry as soon as the divorce was finalized. Cullen, too, he had started dating somebody a few months after leaving the house. He started dating a woman named Karen Masters, no relation to his first wife, Sandra Masters.
Interesting.
But what a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
It's like dating another Sandra or something. I just feel like, well, that's weird. Anyway, he got her to go blonde, per the norm, and got a boob job, per the norm. The man had a type, y'all. He did. No shame, but if those ladies wanted to do all that mess, great. That's now that mine are like 2 golf balls and socks, I'm thinking about, just a little upkeep in there. So he lived with her, and she had 2 sons from her previous marriage. So they all lived together. So the judge Edson, he was the judge on the divorce case. And at this point, so this was 1976, at this point in the case, he had ordered Cullen to pay $3,500 a month, which pissed him off, to Priscilla. It pissed her off. It pissed him off enough that it scared her to get security guards. And she installed he used to beat her, this was a dangerous time. Yeah. When you're trying to leave, it's a dangerous time, right? She installed a security system, and she had some private security company that swept around every once in a while. But on August 2nd, 1976, Priscilla went before Judge Edson again and asked for $5,000 a month from Cullen, plus a continuance on the proceedings because she needed to have surgery. She actually had 2 large masses that she needed to remove from her left breast. And so she needed a continuance. He said, that's cool. He also threw in that Cullen should pay $25,000 to Priscilla for her legal fees, and then another extra $24,000 for other expenses that she's accrued. He was rich. And I mean rich, that this was like, he was so rich that this was like a drop in the bucket. This was nothing. It's nothing, right?
Yeah.
$50,000, nothing. but it was the principal for him. It was the principal. He was pissed off. He didn't want to pay her any more money. He didn't want to help her anymore.
Yeah.
And this wasn't the only issue that was on his mind at this point. Bill Davis, his youngest brother, also had just filed a federal lawsuit against his two older brothers because he felt like, hey, Cullen, you've got not only $16 million in personal debt, but you've got $150 million in company debt. You guys are bleeding this company and you won't let me sell my holdings to get, like, he wanted to sell them and take his money and go.
Yeah.
He was just like watching his brothers not do what's right for the company, at least in his brain. He was saying, you guys are manipulating stocks and blah, 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 blah. And so he just was like, you guys are doing it for your financial gain. I'm just wanting to get out and you guys aren't even letting me do that.
Yeah.
So, okay. Now we're going to get to the crime. It's been a long lead up.
Okay.
But now here's why I'm telling you this goddamn story.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Hold on. I need a break. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me set the scene for you. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
The same night that the judge made this ruling,
Okay.
that day, so Cullen and his brother Ken Jr. are meeting about the lawsuit that Bill is having, has brought against the two of them.
Okay.
During this meeting, he gets a notification about the judge's ruling
Okay.
against him for Priscilla. He goes to lunch with Dee to talk about her, your eyes.
Why would
Dee is the stepdad. This is her stepdad.
Why would she meet with him alone?
No one knows anything. Everything is kosher, just whatever. I'm going to give you your, she's going off to college. Right? She's going to go to Texas Tech. He needs to talk to her about her budget. And so he tells her, you go home tonight and you have a meeting with your mom about your budget. Like, you make sure you're home meeting with your mama about this budget. Okay. You're going to be home, right?
I would definitely not be home.
She's like, yeah, I'm going to totally be home. Totally going to be home. She already had plans to go out with her friend Beverly and then to meet up with their boyfriends later. They were going to go shopping and then they were going to meet up with their boyfriends.
Yeah.
Right. So he's having this meeting with the brothers. He learns about the judge. It's a terrible thing. So it's August 2nd, 1976. Priscilla and her boyfriend, Stan Farr, they were going to go out in the town. Her daughter, Andrea, who was 12, was staying the night at the mansion. Now, she normally lived with her dad, Jack, but he had agreed to pick her up the next morning.
Okay, wait. So Priscilla got the mansion?
Priscilla, yes, he moved out.
When he moved out, Priscilla,
he moved out,
her boyfriend, live in the mansion.
And Dee.
And Dee. Okay.
And so the other kids visit.
Okay.
Now that Cullen is out. So Andrea is there. She's, the idea was that Andrea was going to stay. Dee and Beverly were going to come and stay at the mansion later on. And, Priscilla and Stan were going to come back.
Okay.
Well, Dee decided that she was going to go and spend the night with her boyfriend. But Beverly, who said she'd already stay at the mansion, went ahead and did that. She and her boyfriend, Bubba, went to the man. They were going to go back to the mansion, and Dee went to her boyfriend's house.
Okay.
So Andrea, who was 12, was staying the night at the mansion. So she lived with Jack, but he was going to pick her up the next morning. She was 5'7" already at 12.
Oh, wow.
I know. But she looked like her mom as a brunette, just a spitting image of her mom, but with brown hair. Just beautiful little girl. Her room was that of a little girl, right? It was pink and cuddly and soft and fuzzy, just like that, what you would expect of a little girl's room. And that's the way Priscilla described Andrea. She was so gentle, so quiet, she said. She was just like me. She loved to take in stray animals. She was the kind who could keep a cat and a canary in the same room. Andrea loved to cook. For weeks after the funeral, Priscilla would open the hotel-sized refrigerator in her room and discover little concoctions that Andrea had stored in there. Dee would say that she was well beyond her 12 years, an old soul, an animal lover. She was very artistic and she loved to draw. Dee and her friend Beverly went out to go shopping, but Dee ended up going to stay the night with her boyfriend, like I said, afterwards. Beverly and her boyfriend, Gus Bubba, would go back to the mansion for the night later on. So Andrea's home alone. Okay. But she knows how to use the complicated alarm system. They've already taught her how to do that and knows to lock the doors. She's responsible enough to do that. Hell, when I was 12, I was a live-in nanny.
Yeah.
Like for a rich family. And I was alone with their children all day with a pool and like.
I mean, I was just left alone.
I mean, so and then other times I was just left alone all the time. Like latchkey kids unite, Anyway, Priscilla felt comfortable enough and trusted Andrea enough to lock up. I would too. She seemed like a good kid. So around 12:30 in the morning, Priscilla and Stan arrive at the mansion, and Priscilla notices right away when they put the key in the lock that the door to the breakfast area was already open, like it was unlocked. And so she was kind of like, I wonder if that was Dee coming back in. She didn't really, there wasn't a whole lot of time to think, but she was like, lights are on, everything's quiet, nothing looks out of sorts. And so she just kind of was like, okay. So she locks it up. So as she starts to turn off the kitchen lights, the lights are left on. So she's going around, she's kind of turning lights off. Stan goes ahead and he goes up to the master bedroom. Then at this point, so Stan's upstairs, Priscilla's downstairs, and this is when she starts to see things that are a little like off.
This is early morning?
This is 12:30 in the morning.
So like midnight?
August 3rd now.
Like midnight or noon?
Midnight.
Okay,
yeah.
12:30 a.m.
a.m.
Okay.
So she starts to see he's trying to close my laptop. She starts to see things. She's turning off lights. She's like, the light to the basement is on. And that's weird. And then she sees that there's a bloody handprint on the wall. And then that's weird. And like, it's all happening so fast.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there's a man dressed all in black, wearing a black wig like a woman's wig that's crooked, not even like on straight. She remembers that really clearly, with a black bag covering his hands. And he goes, hi. And he just shoots her. Hi. Boom. That's it. Shoots her right in the chest. She screams. Stan starts to come down because of the commotion, and Priscilla yells at him, "It's Cullen. He has a gun. Don't come down." He doesn't listen to her. Runs down. Cullen shoots him 2 times, and he goes down, then goes over, stands above him, and shoots him 2 more times. Priscilla said that she saw him grab Stan by his feet and drag him to near the basement door. This is a 6'10", huge man. He couldn't get super far with him. He was not a big dude. So he got him as close to the basement door as he could. Then he goes over and he grabs Priscilla and he starts grabbing her. She's got a long denim skirt on and she's got it pulled up. So she's got like a pink halter top on and a long denim skirt. So she's shot right like in between her breastbone. Yeah. Like not her breast, but like right in the center.
Yeah.
And so she's got the denim skirt up to the hole and she's trying to like stop it. She's trying to plug that up.
Okay.
And so he's grabbing her and trying to pull her over to the basement. And she's yelling that, I love you. I've never loved anybody else. Just sit down, talk to me. I love you. Just let's talk about this. And so she's just pleading with him. She's trying to reason with him. And then when he's pulling her, she's like, ow, Cullen, you're really hurting me. So he just lets her go and kind like unexpectedly and walks away into the kitchen area, like starts to walk around. Probably he's kind of crazy. So she gets up and makes a run for it. And she goes out the front door and she jumps into the bushes. Right as this is happening, a car starts arriving up into the long driveway. A car arrives and she sees Cullen walk out without the wig this time, holding the gun. And she can't do anything. She sees people get out. She doesn't know who it is. It's headlights. You can't see anything. Yeah. And she starts to hear voices. She's far enough away anyway.
Yeah.
She hears voices. She hears screaming. She hears another shot. At that point, she just starts fucking bolting. She starts running. They're 400 yards away from the nearest neighbor. She's barefoot. She's got a fucking wound in the middle of her chest. She's running as fast as she can, through the manicured lawns of, this place. But first, like she's hurt and she's doing all of that. So she gets to the house. These people don't know her. She's knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell, and they're like, hello? She's like, my name is Priscilla Davis. I live in the house on the hill. I have been shot. Please help me. Please, can I come in? But they are way too fucking scared. They're like, no. They can't, no, but we'll call the police. You just stay right there, right? And she says, Cullen is up there shooting everybody. He's killing everybody. And I'm wounded very badly. And every time they would like leave the door, she'd start ringing the doorbell and banging on the door. Where are you? Where are you? I need help. I need help. She was terrified. They were terrified. I mean, there's a guy with a gun running around. What if he's chasing her? I don't know. You don't know what you would do in the moment. It's the middle of the night. Like, Jesus, a woman screaming, I've been shot.
Yeah.
He's killing everybody. I don't know. I can't put myself, I think I would open the door.
I think I would open the door.
But you just don't know.
Yeah.
Can't do that. Anyway. So the car that drove up was that of Dee's friend Beverly Bass and her boyfriend Gus Bubba Gavril. When they drove up and started walking to the door, they saw the man come out of the house with the gun, and Beverly immediately knew that it was Cullen, recognized him and everything, and saw that he had a gun. And she said, Bubba, run, which run, Bubba, run. It just made me think of Forrest Gump. I know it's like, I was like, oh my gosh. It gave me so much like it made me even more anxious because it just made me what it made me feel like that. Like, I love that movie so much. And I just had this like, oh my gosh, it gave me so much anxiety. So she screams, run, Bubba. But Cullen shot him first. And he then started to chase Beverly. Beverly was a track star. So she turns around and she just starts hurtling, like she's jumping hurdles over bushes, over whatever she has. She's off, and she is running and leaves Cullen in the dust. And so she made it to a main road, flags down a car. She asked them to take her to the police station, and they refuse. They take her to like just the nearest payphone, and she calls the cops. And she says her boyfriend's been shot. So then she begs the driver, please take me back to the mansion. My boyfriend's been shot. What if he's dead? And he's like, well, if he's dead, there's no rush.
Oh, fucking people sometimes.
So then as they're waiting, she sees one of the private security guards, and she flags them down. And she's like, you have to take me back up to the house because Cullen's shooting everybody. And, he was, he was like, maybe we should wait for the police and the ambulance. Like everybody's like, there's a man with a gun running around and no police have showed up yet. And so we just need to, everyone's a little scared, understandably so. So before the police arrived, she saw this guy. And so the guard says, are you sure it was him? And she's like, I saw his ugly face. The guard said, whose ugly face? She said, Cullen did it. She said, are you certain? He replied. She says, yes, I saw his ugly fucking face.
I love her.
Go Beverly. So when the police arrived and spoke to Priscilla, she said the same thing. Cullen did it. When the police walked into the bloody scene, they saw a trail of blood that led to Bubba. Bubba was leaning up against a wall, and he had the phone in his hand. He was trying to call for help, but he was alive.
He was alive.
He was alive. He arrived at the hospital just after Priscilla, but because he was more critical in that moment, that he went into surgery first. Stan Farr was found on the kitchen floor near the basement door, just like Priscilla had said. When the police searched the basement, they found 12-year-old Andrea Wilborn with her eyes half open, and her face was that of someone in pain. But she was shot point blank in the chest, severing her aorta, which would cause her to die so quickly, like probably before she even hit the ground. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
And Priscilla believed he was trying to get them all into the basement to kill them. And the thing was, Andrea wasn't supposed to be there. That was actually his favorite kid. Dee was his least favorite kid.
But he did it anyways.
He did it anyway. Dee was that smart-ass teenager that had just had lunch with him. And he was like, make sure you're going to be there. So was he like planning it? You know what I mean?
Obviously.
Like, to me, yes. But Dee obviously had no desire to change her plans with Beverly and her boyfriend, so that wasn't going to happen. So, I mean, yes, I think that this was a thought out plan for him. So you have two dead. You have Andrea and you have Stan, and two others who were shot but alive, Priscilla and Bubba. And then there's Beverly, who saw Bubba get shot and knew who did it. And then you have the next door neighbors who are being told through the door that Cullen is over there shooting everybody. So there's just a lot of witnesses, right? But this is Case Files with Kat and Ashley. And I wouldn't be telling the story if it was an open and shut case, would I? I don't think so. It certainly wouldn't be a two-parter. And next week, we're going to get to what happens after this terrible night. And you won't want to miss it.
I love the sirens are right on cue. I know the listeners probably can't hear it, but sirens just started outside. Perfect timing.
So that's my story for this week.
Okay.
Gotta wait for part 2.
Ooh, okay.
It's gonna be big. You're off next week, so you don't have anything. It'll be me.
But then I'm telling a two-parter.
And then she's gonna have a two-parter coming up after that. So this is exciting stuff, man. We got big stories, lots to say. Thank you, Riley, for writing to us.
Thank you. I always love when people write into us.
Yeah. If you have a story idea, or if you want to just drop us a line and say hi, please do. We're so excited to hear from you guys. And yeah, until next week. See something, say something, and bye.